Jay-Z doing? I'm confused at this point. I don't care whether you think Jay-Z is innocent or guilty at this point. The case has been dismissed without prejudice, but Jay-Z let it leak that he literally lied, misled, and reneged on a deal with Jane Doe, and you're bragging about that? How does that not make her look like she was telling the truth? And that she withdrew the lawsuit, not because it wasn't with Merit, but because she felt bullied and humiliated. She felt like her family would be a target. Her father already was a target because they were harassing him to sign a waiver. One of the cases, the attorneys that worked on the case released a bunch of documents, and I'm going to read you some, but you guys, this is really gross. And I honestly don't understand what Jay-Z is trying to accomplish anymore, because the more you bully, the more it looks like she did fold under pressure. And it was actually said that you guys agreed to do something. They took away the case with prejudice, and then you guys reneged. How is that not illegal? How is that not illegal? And you know what's so gross? Listen, this is my opinion, whether you think Jay-Z is guilty or not, the fact that we are watching a billionaire pull out every dirty trick in the book, stalking, harassment, bullying, media bullying, manipulation, showing at your door, intimidation, literally making deals, then walking away from them, you admitted that you used a dirty trick to get this case dismissed. How does that help you? How does that help you? I'm confused. But honestly, it's gross to me that people are applauding the fact that a billionaire is doing this. Because switch Jay-Z's name out with Diddy's. Switch Jay-Z's name out with Harvey Weinstein. You think that this precedent, you literally publicly bullied anybody that would come up and say a bad word about you, true or false, and people are applauding this? This is gross. But it also makes me think the more that comes out, and Jay-Z's side is the one putting this out, did you win this motion to dismiss fair and square? Because it sounds like everything Jane Doe said was actually true about her being bullied and intimidated. Anyway, let me read this. This is the declaration of Mark E. Kaslowitz. He was the former President Trump's lawyer, but he also represented Busby and Jane Doe when Jay-Z sued them. He gave a statement to the court. Listen to this and let me know what you think. Just let me know what you think. I don't care if you're guilty. I don't care if he's guilty or innocent anymore. What he is doing is gross, and it's an abuse of power. It's abuse of power. Anyway, listen. I'm an attorney with decades of experience practicing in the state of New York with jurisdiction. I partnered with the firm Kaslowitz Bencis Torres, a firm that I founded more than 30 years ago, which employs more than 250 attorneys. And my firm are the New York counsel for the Busby Law Firm and at Tony Busby. If called as a witness, I could and would competently testify to all facts of my personal knowledge except for were stated upon information and belief. The declaration was submitted in opposition. My firm was retained and entered an appearance on behalf of the Busby parties and their Jane Doe client in the case filed on behalf of Jane Doe in the district court for the Southern District of New York. My firm was retained to respond for a motion for sanctions against Busby's parties filed by Jay-Z out of the standard grab. My firm filed an opposition to the motion on sanctions, which I believe was meritorious and would have certainly been successful if the motion for sanctions had been fully litigated. So he's basically saying we filed an opposition saying these sanctions aren't going to go, and he believes, based upon information and belief, that that is 100% true. All right. On or about February 1st, 2025, I was contacted via email by John Quinn, a partner and founder of Quinn Emanuel, and his partner Alex Spiro, that's Jay-Z's lawyer, Sean Carter's lead attorney in the New York action, to discuss a possible global resolution of the dispute involving Jay-Z, Jane Doe, and Busby. Therefore, I engaged in discussions with Alex in early February 2025. The substance of the discussions included a mutual recognition that a continued public dispute was damaging for all parties, including Jay-Z, Busby, and Jane Doe, and that it would be in the best for all concerned to stand down and cease further litigation. Throughout my discussion with Alex Spiro, I made clear that both Jane Doe and Busby stood by the substance of her claims against Jay-Z, but for the reasons set forth in her February 27th declaration submitted to this court, which had nothing to do with the substance of her claims, she would consider dropping those claims, which she later agreed to do. Now, let me just say this, because it's important to say. We need to separate two things. Alex Spiro is an incredibly talented lawyer. He is one of the realest and illest to do this. However, I do think that Jay-Z's public bullying and scorched earth policy, I think it's disgusting. And they have the lawyer saying, we 100% believe this could be litigated. But she was feeling that burn. She was feeling the heat. After the NBC interview, she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. Why? Because look at the way they were going after her in court. And on top of that, she does have like mental illness, right? And there's stuff with the kid's father. There's all this stuff she didn't want dragged up. Fine, lots of witnesses recount. We can talk about it all day, but we're not the ones going through it. It takes a lot of strength to literally stand up to the court of public opinion, especially when you're going against Beyonce's husband. Now, that's not to say that Jay-Z is guilty or innocent, okay? It was dismissed with prejudice. I am saying that Jay-Z just admitted that he didn't get that dismissed prejudice on the merits of the case. You tricked them, because listen. Mr. Spiro and I, Jay-Z's lawyer and I eventually reached an understanding that the parties would agree to walk away whereby they would drop all their disputes against each other and disengage from litigation in the interest of global peace. That's peace not for the globe, but for everybody involved. We negotiated and agreed to a phased withdrawal of the New York action, and our agreement is reflected in the email exchange dated February 4th. A true and correct copy of the February 4th email exchange with Alex is attached here too. As set forth in Exhibit A, the agreement provided a withdrawal of the motion for sanctions in New York City, a dismissal of the New York action within 10 days thereafter, and a commitment by Jay-Z and his attorneys that they will not authorize, employ, or otherwise engage investigators or anyone else to harass or interact with my client, his law firm, or his present or former clients, employees, or family. That also went for Jane Doe. In accordance with the agreement, Quinn Emanuel and Jay-Z withdrew their motion for sanctions. In further performance of our agreement and in reliance on the understanding that parties' disputes were all to be gradually withdrawn, Busby's parties and Jane Doe dismissed the New York action with prejudice on February 14th. I'm surprised and disturbed to subsequently learn that Jay-Z and Quinn Emanuel almost immediately sought to use this negotiated dismissal of the New York action as evidence against Busby in the California action, and that investigators made in-person contact with Jane Doe within a week of the dismissal, notwithstanding the explicit agreement with Jay-Z that no contact be made. The escalatory conduct is completely contrary to the understanding that led to dismissal in New York action, which was premised on mutual cessation of hostilities. I declare an appearance of perjury under the laws in the state of California, and the foregoing is true and correct. He then shows emails where he was like, you and your clients, Jay-Z and Roc Nation, will withdraw the motion. 10 days later, plaintiff will withdraw the complaint. You and your clients and their agents are not authorized, this, that, and the third, right? And it was submitted via email. You guys, what is Jay-Z doing? Is everybody okay with this? Because to me, this is gross. This is gross to me. This is gross to me. Like, people are saying Busby didn't do anything to protect his client, okay? And even after everything blew up, he's been trying to throw under the bus. I look at it as completely different. It looks like the client got scared, and you cannot make a client that is scared proceed, all right? And you can't stand by your client's door 24/7 to protect her. I think that it looks like Jay-Z, if he's not moving illegally, it is very unethical. Just like in one lawsuit, he said that those private investigators were his representatives, but in the California lawsuit, he was like, oh, I don't really know them. They just did that as a solid favor, okay? He literally, you even have your law firm out here lying about settlements and leading people down traps so they dismiss with prejudice, and then you turn around and use that against them? Like, I get it. The NBC interview, Busby didn't prep the father, right? And maybe you could argue that if Busby had done even basic legal work, it would have seen. But again, we didn't hear that whole NBC interview, all right? We never heard the whole interview. And I'm not going to argue back and forth with somebody over sound bites. I'm going to need the whole interview, okay? Because listen, and again, I get it. It was a huge misstep on Busby's part. But then again, we only heard like a 3-minute pieced together snippet of an interview that we never heard the whole one. For instance, when Jane Doe in her paperwork she submitted to court, Jay-Z's PIs were like, she said, how does this help me? And everybody's just like, ooh, she wants a payoff. Jane Doe said, what I said is I kicked you guys off the property. As you guys were leaving, you yelled out, we're just trying to help you. And she said, how does this help me? All right. Again, what is going on? Listen, Jay-Z is effectively in his billionaire ass. I get it. Black wealth. We love to see it. I love to see it. However, Jay-Z is effectively made it so lying, stalking, harassing, and humiliating your accusers is acceptable to the public and to the media at large. And everybody's just sitting there clapping, not looking at the MFing precedents that he is creating. Because we got a problem when Diddy did it. Why? Because we think Diddy's guilty? What proof do we have Diddy's guilty? I mean, the federal government. But honestly, what proof? It's all assumptions based off of what we hear. And maybe nobody believed that Jane Doe with Jay-Z. But there might have been other people who saw what Jane Doe went through, and they decided to settle, even though they had proof, even though they might have had kids. They saw what Jane Doe went through, and they said, I'm going to settle, or people just kept their mouth shut and said, it's not really worth it. Again, this is disgusting. This is disgusting. The fact that everybody's like, oh, Busby was stupid to trust this agreement and give up all his leverage. But this makes Jay-Z look weird. I'm not going to say guilty because it hasn't been tried, but it looks weird. It just looks weird. Again, I don't know. Alex Spiro is a brilliant lawyer. Maybe he has a game plan, but I just don't understand what it is, because with each of these weird filings, you're opening Jay-Z more and more up to be like, well, wait a second. That doesn't make sense at all. This is gross. Listen, I get it, right? But what if this is Diddy? Yes, I know that Busby got caught flat-footed with the motion to, not the motion to dismiss, with the interview, but the case would have proceeded. Again, it's really bad. We are applauding a billionaire lying, or at least that's what misleading counsel and tricking a potential victim into signing off with prejudice because she just wants to walk away because she wasn't ready for the media hellstorm that Jay-Z bought down. Basically stalking with PIs that maybe work for you, maybe not. Harassment, intimidation, and humiliation. You think that's acceptable? And I get it. People are looking the other way because they think that Busby and that girl are lying, right? And they think that Busby is a scammer. But this sets a horrible precedence for real cases. It sets a horrible precedent for real cases, and it sets a precedent for what Diddy's going to do. And it's gross that people are being entertained by a billionaire doing this. Again, Jay-Z may have had real cases, I don't know, but he effectively scared everybody away from ever opening their mouth again. Not whether it was true or not, because you don't want that hell and high water that he will bring. And it worked, and this is sad, and it's really gross to me. It's super gross. It's super gross, and it's just gross, and I don't even want to hear about, oh, well, she shouldn't have said. Shut up. Okay? There are rules to engagement. And the fact that somebody's going to try to justify that a potential victim thought they had a deal and then they screwed them over once they got the dismissal with prejudice, you don't get points in my book for Jay-Z. This is gross what Jay-Z's doing. And again, I can separate Alex Spiro being a brilliant lawyer and going to Matt for his client and getting all these effects. But this is gross for Jay-Z to do this. And the more he does this, the more it just looks weird. Anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.